the people that hit me up on Twitter and Facebook and everything else. So, without further ado, I'm bringing her on because I don't even have to introduce her. She's, as I said, it's like she's part of Late Night Parents herself. Miss Rosalind Ross. Roz, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. I just made it home. It was one of those days at work, Roz. I'm telling you, the 9 to 5 is spreads to 9 to 7, and in my life as being an IT person, the clock just continues to go. But happy to have you here. So, how are you? How are things? How's life? How's the hubby doing? What's happening with you?
Pretty much, primavera, I guess. Very happy about these warmer temperatures. We had I think 7 straight days of rain, and I was just like, it may not ever end. And they were saying that the Mississippi River was going to flood, and that's always a big deal around here at that time. Around this time, I don't know if you remember, maybe 3 or 4 years back, the Grizz were going on a pretty late run in the playoffs, and we had flooding that year. I mean, it was just out of control. The river flooded. Yeah, so they were trying to see if that was going to happen again this past week, but we dodged it. So now we're so excited about this sunshine. I'm so excited that this call, my chance to talk to you, coincides with the fairer weather. So I appreciate it.
You're too kind. I'm telling you. But Roz, we love you on the show. We love to have you on as often as possible. I've got to address the elephant in the room, and I got to find out because there's nothing like. And I don't go to Facebook every day. I don't. But when I open my Facebook feed and I see your smiling face along with a new commercial. This time it's FedEx. What's the deal with that?
It's been, that one was a pretty big score. The process was pretty much the same. My agents work to source opportunities for me, and that one came up, and I auditioned for it, and apparently left a good enough impression to get booked, and it was really fun working with. FedEx actually contracted with an ad agency here to put together a campaign for them, and that was the Meet the Neighbors campaign, really trying to encourage small businesses to, meet their neighbors in Canada and Mexico and understanding the shipping abilities and opportunities all in North America. So it was cool to work on the campaign, had a chance to get in with Inferno Advertising here, and it all happened in like 4 hours.
Really?
I think, actually less than that. Less than that. It was I think my call time that day was at 9, and I was done by 11. So, yeah. And actually, I appear at the beginning of the spot and at the end.
Yes.
And I wasn't aware that was going to be how it was going to go. So, I was very excited to see, they let me open and close it. So, but I can't say enough about the trip that this has been, and certainly I'm not, I had a chance to be on Nashville last season, and I've auditioned for a series that is actually going to be shooting here on the $1 Million Quartet, which is about Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis. And I never can remember the last two people who came together. The quartet, they ended up recording here, and they all went out to be these amazing recording stars. But, so I said that to say I'm certainly not at all in a position where I've made it anywhere. But I have to say that this run that I'm having that's in the very early stages really is a testament to the fact that, it doesn't matter. Like, if you have something you want to do, you got a dream you want to go after, it's never too late. It really is never too late. And that's the thing you hear a lot of times from people who are at very high levels of success. And you're looking at them saying, well, of course you're saying that because, you know what? You're at a high, right, you made it. But I'll be the first person who hasn't really made it that'll say, but has made some inroads that will say, you know what, if you've got a dream, go ahead and go after it and make it happen. And I'm thankful to have this opportunity.
I want to say this much to you, Roz. If you don't go out there and go for it, then who will?
Exactly. I mean, you have to, and you really have to seek out the opportunities, but as long as you stay ready, which is another thing you hear from these wildly successful people, but as long as you stay ready and put yourself in a position, you can really get some things going and surprise yourself with the type of success that you can have.
True. I got to switch gears really quickly because I got called out last week by a medical doctor that I had on the show, Dr. Reed called me. She called me out. She's her and her husband have a gym, and they're putting together some adult classes, some training classes. And I know about a year or so ago I was telling you about my plight at the gym and everything else like that. And I think I was truthful with you, and I said it went south. So she's challenged me to come on back. Dr. Michelle Reed has challenged me to come on back to the gym. And she kind of, where I usually put people on, I kind of keep them on edge because I'll try to ask them a funny question. She said, so what class are you going to be involved in? And I said, yoga. And I said, yes. And I'm having my good friend Rosalind Ross on next week. Roz, what do 40-year-old guys need to know about yoga?
Well, you need to let your ego go. I mean, and that's, honestly, I would say that to anyone at any age who is starting anything, but especially to any guy at any age who is deciding to start yoga. Because, men are, it's not to be sexist or whatever, but we're late-night parent, and we know there is traditionally a difference between men and women. And yes. Traditionally men are naturally stronger. Women can definitely work themselves out and get to a place where we're good and strong. But but men usually come to yoga practice very strong. And that's cool, except for yoga isn't just about strength. It's also about flexibility and patience and, an opportunity to really let your ego go because somebody will be standing up in front of you instructing you and trying to tell you to do something. And a few times it will feel like your body just doesn't want to cooperate. And women, we're sort of used to that, but men have a hard time dealing with not being able to do stuff, especially since you're generally strong and you want to come in and you want to be the man everywhere.
Right.
So a lot of guys have that moment like, what the heck is happening to me? So that's what I would say to you is go with an open mind and go really prepared to have your ego challenged. But more importantly, be prepared to but be prepared to sacrifice some of your strength in order to find yourself, nice and flexible in some other places. The reality of it is that when you get stronger and you create muscle in the body, and men, again, just have this because of testosterone, muscles get bulky, but when they get bulky, they're actually tightening to that point. And so when you go in and you're looking to stretch, you're trying to reverse the action of the bulk. You won't lose the bulk, but you're trying to lengthen your muscles as opposed to having them all clumped up and piled up in one place. So, you can't get in there and force your way into a forward fold, standing and bending over and being able to touch your toes. It's a thing that just has to naturally, your body has to open up into. And you may not be able to do it the first time, but hang in there, Ted. Just hang in there.
Okay.
And
I'm trying.
I promise you, you'll find, that it can really, that you'll get nice and strong in yoga as well. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to build strength, but like I always say, women come in to yoga and they are usually naturally flexible, and men come in and they're naturally strong, and we both have to be mindful of how the class is going to challenge us. For women, it often challenges our strength. For men, it often challenges our flexibility right off the rip. And then we eventually meet in the middle and everybody's happy. But it's just the way it works. Yeah.
All right. All right. I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you, and it's about
Sure.
the NBA.
All right.
And I just need to know, what are your thoughts about the debacle that's going on in New York? I mean, I know you're in Memphis, but this is whenever anyone talks about the Knicks and Phil Jackson and Melo, and what's your thoughts on Phil Jackson saying he's willing to coach next season, but home games only? Is ludicrous, or what comes to your mind? And
Well, what the first thing that came to my mind is apparently exactly the same way Carmelo Anthony felt about it, which is that I'm just not going to accept that. I mean, and you know what? That's a privilege you earn when you've got 10 rings and you are the Zen master and you have this legacy of winning. The privilege you earn to even actually be able to suggest that is an appropriate plan. But there's no way. I just don't see how that works in a real way, and I don't see how it benefits the team.
right.
That team. What the Knicks desperately need right now is some level of strength in leadership and consistency in leadership. Two things that apparently were lacking under Derek Fisher. And by the way, his open letter in the Players Tribune, I think I read, didn't really help him make any case. He may not ever get another head coaching job. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know how you can trust a guy like that. So I think franchises, that may be the end of his head coaching career.
I will go out and say on a limb, he won't coach again. He will not coach again.
I agree with that. I don't see how that could happen. And I don't see how Phil Jackson coaching at home games but then leaving the team in someone else's hands. I don't see how that helps you, and I don't see how that happens either.
So my next rapid fire question is, and this was something from a couple of weeks ago. It just seemed they seemed salty. I mean, I know they're old, but they're Hall of Famers. And I asked Danny Thompson this question a few weeks ago. I said, why are all the old school Hall of Fame b-ballers always seem to be hating on our boy Steph Curry? I mean, does it come down to money? Is it because of social media endorsements? Like, what's your take on that?
Well, I hate. It feels very convenient for me to just throw out the H word, right?
Yes.
And especially since we're so tired of using the terminology in our lexicon. But it feels a little bit like hating. I don't know how it could be said any other way. When you hear somebody coming out and saying he's, I don't think Oscar Robertson made this point. This came from another guy, maybe, about Steph ruining the game for young kids who are all going to think, that they can throw up shots like this. I mean, if your kid's trying to play basketball and he doesn't understand the type of gift that is required for him to be able to make some of these long-range shots, that it's not a thing you want to build your game around, because that's not what Steph has built his game around. It's a part of what he can do, but he is ridiculously skilled. He is not. He really isn't very athletic, but he's so skilled, and he has a great first step. And his handles, like the time and the investment he's put into being as good as he is, that should really inspire young kids. And older guys should be inspired by that. Now, I heard somebody mention, it may have been Isaiah Thomas, and I hadn't really considered this earlier, but really the freedom that Steve Kerr has allowed Steph in showing this part of his personality as a player, like the player who can pull up from half court. So actually what we may be seeing is some of these older guys being a little bit jealous of the freedom that Steph is being given, because they weren't given that type of freedom. It was dash to the hole and get your layup. The game was very streamlined into a narrow space where you were judged as a good player. So what we actually may be seeing is older guys saying, you know what, if I had been allowed to do that, I, may have had that same type of success, but they weren't allowed to do that. And they may be jealous, actually, of the freedom that Steph is being given. And that's a shout-out to Steve Kerr trusting him and allowing him to show that range and that personality as a part of his game. And it's working to the Warriors' success.
That is true. Hey, so it's crystal ball time. I'm going to say my crystal ball question for you is, how many years will it take? And this is totally based on your opinion and your thought process. How many years will it take before Becky Hammon gets the nod and is selected as the first ever female head coach? And what do you think a team, the maturity level needs to happen with that specific team? So thoughts are when this will happen. I mean, we kind of know it's going to happen. And what type of team would it require?
Well, it definitely requires a mature bunch. And unfortunately, and this is in a separate sport, but if you read through some of the transcripts and some of the literature out there about this case against the University of Tennessee at Knoxville, the Peyton Manning shenanigans,
yes.
One of the points that was made in that case, in this entire discussion, is that Peyton or someone in the program mouthed off, about the fact that that's why women, shouldn't be allowed in the locker room. That's why women should be separated from, from men's programs. So when you hear that type of opinion still being thrown around, it gives me the sense that we're still a little ways off from her getting a head coaching job in the NBA. And one other thing that also is challenging for me as a woman and as a sports lover, particularly around basketball, is how we are trying so hard. Like, every year at WNBA time, we try to make the WNBA feel welcome, and we do all this stuff to ensure that it's just as well beloved as the NBA, which we know that's not true.
That's true.
And oftentimes it's represented by some of the people who have aspirations to go farther than the WNBA. So I wonder if, what happens if she's offered a head coaching job in the WNBA? Ted,
right.
What do you think? Do you think she says, I don't want that because I'd prefer to be the first woman in the NBA as opposed to, you know what I mean? So
Good thought.
Yeah, one thing that I like to, I would like to challenge, as we look at International Women's Month and we say, we're so happy with how far women have come. But the reality of it is that sometimes we're still looking for our validation in arenas where we're still looking for men to validate us in their spaces. And, there may be a perfect space that comes available for her in the WNBA, and I'll just be curious to see if she takes that or if she waits around to see if an opportunity will come up in the NBA. But I just think we're still maybe a little ways off, because even in the NBA, we're not talking about college kids, but we are talking about 20-year-olds in a lot of cases.
Correct.
And guys who probably, new guys coming in who maybe haven't been around women in their programs before. And it's just a touchy situation. I think we got to figure out what kind of parameters to put around it to make sure she can be protected in the environment and be able to still have some success.
Roz, my bonus question for you this week is, if you could give your younger self some advice, what would you tell yourself?
I would just say, I honestly would just say, don't worry. We spend a good amount of our time worrying about stuff that never happens. And I'm sure that's a quote from somebody. I can't think of, maybe Henry David Thoreau. I don't know, but I've seen this quote before, and it is very, very real. The amount of time we waste worrying about things that really don't ever come. And the reality of it is the fact that when things do come, we sort of kick into this place where we have this natural response that helps us take care of the situation, respond accordingly, and then eventually we move forward. I've lost both of my parents. I lost my mom 3 years ago and my dad 10 years ago. And with their losses, not to say that I don't still get sad, because I often do, but those losses put a lot of things in perspective for me. And number one being how much time I wasted being sad over things that were far less painful than those losses. You know what I mean? So that's what I'd say to my young self. That's what I'd say to any actual young person, because I'm old now, but that's what I'd say to any actual young person, especially if you're a woman. Don't get those frown lines because you're so worried, because you're going to be sadder about the frown lines when you're older than you are about the crap that really never even manifested. So, ladies, no frown lines. Just smile through it. And don't worry so much. That's what I would say. That's what I say to anybody.
Gotcha. Roz, it's always wonderful to have you. Tell us the best ways to get in contact with you. Tell us about your writings. I mean, what's next? What's next in the world of Roz?
Next in the world of Roz, I think, is I've actually been really working to manifest this acting career. So, and that has been coming true. I've got a shoot tomorrow, which is a print shoot. It's not acting, it's modeling. I'm going to be playing Tina Turner in a production here in the next, then by May, I think May, I'll be playing Tina Turner, so I'll have to keep you posted on how that goes.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but you can reach me at R_Trinity on Twitter, and same at Instagram. And even if you want to hop on over to my Snapchat, I'm at the R_Trinity there. And, you can always find my stuff there. I probably write 2 times a week and haven't published in maybe 2 months, but I write every week. I'm working on something now that I think actually I will finish it to completion and publish it, because I got a really strong opinion about these little league football teams, but I'll keep that under wraps and let you know when that comes out. Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely will. But otherwise, Ted, thank you so much for having me on. I love coming on your show. You do a great job, and great job with EJ. We were talking about you on the show. G and I were talking about how good that show was with you two. So good stuff there.
Oh, my goodness. Thanks so much, and I will definitely be listening to Shooting the, what the rest of that word is, that S word. I want to give you a round of applause, Roz. And we love you, and all the best. And if there's anything we can do, definitely how to get in contact with us, because that's just how we do. It's
we're
just
family.
Like that. We are family. So thank you so much, and I will be cutting this interview up, and you will get a blast on your Twitter feed, and I hope everyone enjoys it as much as I did. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Talk soon.
And that was Miss Rosalind Ross. It was great having her. Like I said, it's family. I think we have our next friend in the queue, Miss Pauline Middleton. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear from our friends at Audible, and then we're going to bring on Miss Middleton, and we're going to talk about One Woman, Three Men.
Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook of your choice and a free 30-day trial membership. Just go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and choose from over 180,000 audio programs. Download a title free and start listening. It's that easy. Go to audibletrial.com/late-night-parents. That's audibletrial.com/late-night-parents and get started today. Why Audible? Audible content includes more than 180,000 audio programs from the leading audio